It's time for your Talk Time Live exclusive.
You are now about to witness the strength of geek knowledge.
Folks, our next guest has a IMDb list of characters that could take up this entire interview, but I'll just name a few. She is the voice of iconic characters such as Strawberry Shortcake, Polly Pocket, Bonnie, and Nurse Joy from Pokemon, among many others. Her name is Alyson Leigh Rosenfeld, and she is back to talk about her latest role as Lunamarie Hawke in the recently released anime film Gundam Seed Freedom, along with which is available on Netflix, mind you, along with Gundam Seed and Gundam Seed Destiny, the series. Please welcome Alyson back to Talk Time Live exclusive. Alyson, welcome back after all these years.
Hi, thank you so much for having me back. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, my goodness. We haven't spoken since 2016. Do you believe that?
A lot's changed since then. It's
which is going to bring me to my first question. I mean, we're going to get right down to it. Like, a lot has happened in both our worlds.
Yeah.
I mean, is it safe to say dramatically, traumatically? Like
both, yes.
How would you best describe your journey from the time to now?
Ooh, on the micro level, I got married in 2017 and had a baby in 2020. So my world literally expanded. And then, there was a little global pandemic that kind of just like happened as I was having a baby. It was fine. Everything's fine. No big deal. Very fun time to have a baby. But I also think, my industry had this huge change happen in 2020 that I think, are still feeling the reverberations of, where things were still recording, but studios weren't open. So everyone I know had to get set up with, professional grade
Plaza studios.
Yeah. And there was definitely a steep learning curve to that. But, fortunately we had friends who were engineers and directors who told us what equipment and how to sound treat and how to adjust our gain on the fly as we were working and all of that good stuff. And yeah, I feel very fortunate to have been in a part of the acting industry that just kept on trucking from 2020 onward, which is pretty wild.
It's funny. I interviewed quite a few actors, doing voice roles and stuff like that. And yeah, that was a really, really interesting time. And you know what I learned about that time is that voice actors, or actors in general doing voice roles, is what I like to put it. You guys were the survivors. You guys were one of the survivors of the pandemic, because if you found a way to improvise the situation. These closet studios was no joke. Some people went from just literally being in the closet to do it, to get the acoustics right. And then some people had real big setups, elaborate setups happening. Yeah, and I've seen a lot of this, interviewing a lot. It was very inspirational in a lot of ways, because it's like, no matter what, you're going to find a way.
Yeah. Yeah. In the before times, I had a laundry bin that had foam lined on the inside and a USB Blue Yeti, shout out mic. And I would go into my closet and I would throw a blanket over my head and end of list. That was all that I had before the pandemic. And now if I turned the camera around, you would see this whole room is soundproofed. And I've got, a real deal microphone and interface. And, I could, if I so chose, work from home 100% of the time. But I personally love an excuse to put on a real pair of pants and go see people. So I always choose to go in studio when I can. But
I think a lot of your peers have, had the same inclination of that too. Just the idea of being able to go to work to do something as cool as what you do. You don't take that lightly. You don't take it for granted, and you do. You got to do what you have to do. But when you want to do it, it's like you got to. It reminds you of how special of a situation you have when you're able to go to that booth.
Yeah, and also, so much of our community was built from being, as I used to call it, ships in the night. You'd be going into the booth as I'd be coming out, but we'd get that few minutes to catch up and chat. And without going to the studio, a lot of that is lost, because very often, especially with dubs, we're not recording at the same time. So I'm very rarely actually in the booth with my friends and colleagues. So it was really that opportunity to connect with my colleagues and friends and co-actors. And so having lost that for a long time, I'm very happy to once in a while get to have that back.
Understood. Well, with
Yeah.
that said, because we haven't talked for so long, congratulations on your marriage and having your kid. Because
Thank you.
of course, I followed you on social media and everything, so it was
Yeah.
like I did. I vicariously lived through your your road through that
We're
entire
parasocial
time.
friends. You knew, yeah.
Right, exactly. So it's like I was like, this is awesome. And by the
Yeah.
way, here's what I need to know real quick. This is an extra question. Who in the hell is your photographer?
Oh, of like when we do like family shoots?
The family shoots, your shoot. I mean, like it's
Oh,
just the saturation and the vibrance and the lighting is
thank
just
you.
on point. Please tell me
I
that you.
Well, I'm a Photoshop queen, so like if it's about like the vibrancy of things, sometimes it's just like me punching it up a notch. But the photographer of most of my recent headshots, our family shoots, it is this incredible photographer who also happens to be a very dear family friend named Dominic Calacchio. Highly recommend checking him out. He was based in New York, now he's based in California. Fantastic photographer. Anybody looking for any kind of photography, look him up and give him lots of work
What
because
I
he's the
love
best.
about his work is, especially with you, is I went into your website and it really brings out your presence. It brings
Oh,
out your
thank you.
personality, the color schemes, all that stuff. It really kind of narrates who you are
Thank
without
you.
in a nonverbal way. Without like this is the when I see that I already knew who I'm dealing with when I was when I
Yeah,
actually have a
I really
conversation.
appreciate that. Yeah, I love hot pink, spoiler alert. So like if you go to my website, there's a lot of that around. I'm a
Yeah.
very, spunky, fun, colorful person, and yeah, I think that is there. But so it's mostly that Dominic is such a fantastic photographer, but the other side of it is especially for the headshots for the last 2 or 3 years, when
Hmm.
I've done those shoots, my best friends and I have done it together. So
Right.
we've been on set with each other, pumping each other up, making each other laugh, telling each other how fierce and gorgeous we look, and that element to it, having that community of ladies to just like build each other up and make each other feel super comfortable in front of the camera, that helps
Definitely.
too.
That's awesome. That
Yeah.
is awesome. So yeah,
Yeah.
kudos to the photographer for that. You
Yeah.
just and kudos to you guys for knowing your stuff.
Yeah. 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 We know who we
So
are.
there you go. So I want to thank you again and the cast and everybody involved with Gundam Seed for accomplishing one thing, and that is making me a fan of soap operas. You know what's so funny about that is that like I'm old school manly man type of dude, but it's like who was like, no, I don't watch Young and the Restless. Hell no, I'm not. I would go and say like I would go, man, I'd be like, nah, I'm just not into the guiding light type of thing. And then like my wife is watching, dramas like Grey's Anatomy or any Rashonda Rhimes, show. And I'm like, I'm not watching that. Then I go watch Gundam Seed. Like, damn it, they got me.
It's
Because
real.
look, Gundam Seed is an anime that sucked me in right from the first few episodes because I haven't watched all of it until it got on Netflix, and I was like, I found out you were on there. I'm like, you know what? That's what I'm gonna reach out to you, but I'm gonna dig in. I went hard on both Gundam Seed and Gundam Seed Destiny before I got to Freedom because I'm like, I'm not watching Freedom until I watched all this.
Yeah, you
This is
need
the
to know who you're rooting for, who's your OTP, like what
I'm so
couples
glad I
really.
did. I am so glad I did. Like, I mean, let's talk about your character right now. Like, your
Yeah,
character, Lunamarie Hawke, is very fierce. She's a fierce character and kind of a contrast from a lot of the characters that you normally
I
play.
agree. Yeah.
So, with that said, like, do you enjoy playing a mature and complex character like this in animation?
It is such a joy. It is so much fun, especially in Destiny in the series, which by the way, we recorded a very long time ago. So it's
Mhm.
wild that it's only just now been released on Netflix and
Right.
the movie like the series. So when we recorded the series years and years ago,
2004, right?
yeah, and then we wait.
Hmm.
Oh, not 2004, but later than that. But it's been many years.
Well,
But there was
The English dubbing, I believe, probably came out later, but the initial show was
got
10
you.
years old. Okay.
So we there was this long time, even until they released like the DVD of it.
Yeah.
So I was sitting on that I had done this role and I was so proud of it for so long we weren't allowed to say anything. And then finally that came out. It was a really long time in between
Mhm.
recording and the release. And then with Seed, I mean with Freedom, we recorded it, and like 2 seconds later, the movie came out and we were promoting it, and it was just like such a different experience this time around, which was really fun. But I've got to say, Carrie Keranen, who is the director, she is a voice actor as well, and an incredible one. And as a director, she gets it. She knows the genre so well. She is always giving directions that are like engaging and fun and make me think about a choice in a different way than I would have before. And I think that that really allowed me to like sink my teeth into, okay, so like, who is this character? What does she want? And those big acting questions. It wasn't just I'm doing a voice in an anime. Not that it's ever really that, but it especially
Right.
was, what am I fighting for? Who are the people that this character cares about? And like getting to be a badass, in a giant robot.
Of all else, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
And it just so happens that I'm piloting this thing right here. It's not a rover. It's not like a Land Rover or whatever, but
Yeah, no. Maybe you've heard of it.
right. So with that said, have you actually, because, here's the thing I've learned about, actors is that, as much as they love doing their job, they don't have too much time to look at their work. So with that said, have you ever had a chance to watch the series in its completion and when it, as it released? And if so, like, what are your thoughts on the direction of Lunamarie?
Okay, so I have not watched all of Destiny yet,
Yeah.
but we did go, my husband and I did go to the premiere of Freedom here in New York,
Yeah.
which was so fun. Just like sitting in the theater and like nobody knows who I am, and like hearing that, especially if they like laughed at a line that I said or something, I'm like,
Right.
oh yes, nailed it. But now that we've seen Freedom, he's like, all right, now we need to go back and watch Destiny because I really want to see like your character's progression from one to the other.
Mm-hmm.
It's like on the binge list, the Netflix
Yes.
binge list, but we have not sat down and watched all of Destiny yet.
How cool is it to have a binge list that includes shows that you've done?
It's so cool. It's really, really cool. What's funny is when we went to the premiere, so they had one night that was the sub premiere where they like had me up on stage to talk about it, and then they had one night that was the dub premiere where like I was like kind of secretly there. And the
Yeah.
night of the sub where they showed just like a tiny little clip of the dub to like try to get people to come back the next night. We brought my son, who is now 4, and we're sitting there and like up on the big screen, and it's like mommy's voice coming out of the screen.
Oh.
He turns to me and he goes, "Mommy, you said this would be short and it's not." Like, cool, yeah, we'll be out of here soon and we'll go to dinner. Thanks, kid. So glad that you're really proud of mommy.
That's one of my questions too. Like, in terms of your son, like, has he come to grips of knowing, really knowing what you do, and how does he respond to it? And you kind of gave me that answer.
Yeah, so for the most part, like colleagues of mine who have kids are like, there's this rare window of time where he will understand what you do for a living and think it's cool, like not be like wildly embarrassed by you.
That's what
So
I
I
was
think
waiting for.
we're in the sweet spot right now, so I'm living in it. When he first understood what I did, he thought I was the voice of everything. So like our Google Home would talk and he'd be like, "Mommy, is that you?" And I'd be like, "I wish that was me." But now he really does get it. He knows that
Right.
mommy's on Pokemon. There's certain things that he started to watch that he knows
Right.
I'm in. Sometimes the weird stuff will happen where like he'll ask Google to play a song and all of a sudden it's me and I'm like, what? Why? How did this? And it's just some like random thing I recorded 10 years ago that just happens to be on Spotify. That's weird. But most of the time, if he wants to see something that mommy's been in, he knows that he's going to be watching something that I am the voice of.
I'm wondering, because he's 4, but I'm wondering like when he gets like maybe to 8, maybe to 9, and these shows that you've like your legacy comes into this place, and I wonder when is going to be that time when he starts flexing.
I know. I really don't know because, like, he'll have friends who bring like Pokemon plushies to school and stuff, and he doesn't say, "And my mommy," like he doesn't do that.
Well, not
So,
yet, or at least not in front of you. But it might be
So,
that situation where he's like walking in school in slow mo, and he's looking at people like, that Bulbasaur? That's my mom. It just keeps going, and music just plays behind him.
Yeah. If/when that happens, I'll be very curious. Be like, "So what did you say?"
Exactly. So, I mean, continuing with Gundam Seed, though, there was a lot of relevant real world storytelling in both Gundam Seed and Gundam Seed Destiny that I believe really that as us as humans can have a conversation about. This is the part I love about anime is that it's a variety, a collage of different type of genres and feels and stuff. And Gundam usually hits, on the mark with these type of things. Like this Gundam Seed, I've watched a lot of Gundam series, and this one was a little bit different in a lot of ways. It was a great balance of drama, politics, action, and romance. In the CW Greg Berlanti fashion, mind you. And what I, what I want to ask is like, what was the biggest takeaway from rather the movie that you saw or even parts of the series that you saw? Because when I started watching Gundam Seed alone, it was like, oh my God, this is so relevant to things that are going on in this world right now.
Yeah, yeah.
It
I
is
think
crazy.
it is
And
crazy.
and that was like 2002.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of it, like, I think about like nature conservation. I think about political alliances or, the powers that we put our faith in,
Yeah.
and sometimes blindly so.
Yeah.
Who
Yes.
appears to be good but is actually not so good. Yeah, I
Destiny
think,
really cleared that part up right there. It
yeah,
really,
yeah.
it's especially with a particular character in there that, like, I won't spoil it for anybody, but there's one character that is kind of reminiscent of a very popular pop star out right now.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It makes you think about, like you're saying, the things that, exist in the real world context where it's like you really need to be questioning everything, making sure you're reading trusted sources when it comes to where you're
Yes.
getting your news and fact checking and really, doing gut checks and also to realize that more often than not, things are not so black and white. Often they are more gray, and then you need to figure out what side of it, you really feel comfortable with or agree
Yeah.
with, and you can make decisions based on real information.
That's it, and that's exactly what Destiny really took from. I took away from Destiny because it really pulled. Like the first one was a little bit like it was based on a war of two different regions at some point, but the second one kind of hit the mark on what you were talking about because it got really political in the sense of what we're
Yeah.
kind of experiencing right now. It's like, wow, this is so ahead of its time. This is.
Yeah.
I'm just amazed. Like it was. Oh, it was damn near clairvoyant
I
in a
know. I
lot of
know.
ways.
Well, yeah, I mean, you said 2002. Yeah, there was certainly a lot going on in America then too, fortunately or
Right.
unfortunately. But yeah, it's like we have to study history to learn from it, and maybe we need to
Yeah.
watch more anime to learn from it too.
Enough said right there.
Yeah.
So let's move on to something else. Like I looked at your IMDb list, and you are the voice of iconic characters based on toy lines of my youth. Like when you think about characters like Strawberry Shortcake, like in the '80s, that was a very iconic toy line right there in the
Hmm.
franchise. Polly Pocket, I think, was like near to like the late '80s and '90s, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Did you ever own any of these toys that you're playing as right now?
Okay, so Strawberry was slightly before my time, I'm not gonna lie.
Right, right,
But Polly Pocket I was obsessed with. To the
right.
point that like being on Pokemon, I thought that was cool, but when I got Polly Pocket, I was like, I'm sorry, what? Like that is I still have them. I could tell you what my favorite playset of hers was, like obsessed. So that was really the one that I fangirled out
Right.
the most
Right,
about
right, right.
because yeah, that one just really like did it for me. I
I
I
I
love.
I totally understand about the strawberry shortcake part because, like in the '80s, it was like completely one of the hottest things. It was like them. It was like her, Care Bears, Rainbow Bright,
Yeah.
Barbie to some extent for women at the time, and it was just like they were just a deal. Like, and then they stopped the strawberry shortcake franchise for a bit, and now they to see it resurge like it did. I was surprised, and to see you, I'm like that you played. I was like, wow,
Yeah, I've got to say, Strawberry's having a renaissance. Like
yeah,
every con that I do, people flip out. They love Strawberry Shortcake. It's really, really cool. And, it's some people who grew up with it in the 80s, and then it's some people who watched it in the 2010s. Like it's a big mix of
right,
generations, which is so fun,
right,
which is also something I find with Pokemon now. I'll
right.
have fans who watched it when they were growing up, and now they have kids who are watching it. And it's very cool to see the like cross-generational love of these huge characters and titles. Yeah.
Did you ever research doing Strawberry when you first? got the role, or you just went with it?
No, with all of the big things that I have done, I have not been a fangirl of them before I did them. And I think just
Right,
approaching them as an actor was something
right.
that kind of like worked in my favor because I was like, all right, so who is this person? What do they want? What do I think they might sound like based on, the picture that I see and the age that I'm told that they are? And then I kind of just make a choice. And fortunately, a lot of times they're like, hey, we like that, and then
Well, the other
I'll
thing
get the
too is
job.
like they didn't really have too much of a narrative going for that because it was just a toy line. And I think they had
Yeah.
one like animated special back in the day, if memory serves me. So they didn't really have anything really lined. So it was like you could take creative road with that character and really make it into
Yeah, I
something.
mean, with Strawberry and with Polly Pocket, they
Yeah.
really wanted to bring her into the 2020s, and
Yes.
they wrote episodes that are so funny and so relevant and funny, and really just hit it with the kids of today. Like they're really I enjoy reading them, I enjoy acting them, and they
Right.
make me laugh as we're going over them, which is really cool.
Right.
Yeah, they're not like trapped, in 30, 40 years ago, which is good.
Right. So another question I have is that you perform both, behind the booth, a single booth, but you also perform live on stage from time to time. Um, what would you say are what are the benefits of performing on stage, and does it help you when you perform in a single booth?
I love this question. So I say that like voiceover pays for my theater habit.
Ha,
I
I've heard that before.
yeah, musical theater, like singing is the thing that gives me the greatest joy on the planet Earth, aside from my son and my husband.
Mhm.
I love to sing. It is my favorite thing to do. And absolutely performing on stage is a phenomenal tool for being a
Yeah.
voice actor because voice acting and musical theater acting and film acting, they are all acting.
Right.
And the ability to use my whole body, make choices about my character, listen to other people, listen to a director, and then being a singer, having an awareness of my instrument and like how to
Yeah.
manipulate it and make different sounds come out of me in a
Right.
safe way, are all things that have been hugely influential in having a sustainable voice acting career.
Yeah. Would you possibly say, and this might not just be for everybody, but would you possibly say that actors who do have a background on stage tend to actually get more opportunities in a sense? Because I know I'm only saying that because I have a quite a few of people that I've had on the show that also practices both on stage and behind the booth as well, and I
Yeah.
notice how versatile and that they are when it comes to doing different roles and everything because some of the roles may go coincide with theater backgrounds
Absolutely. Yeah. I,
in the
I
same
think
way.
theater actors who are also voice actors, we just have a large tool belt, if you will,
Yeah.
that we can like
Right.
use different things at our disposal because we have this greater awareness of ourselves and of how we create characters and of our
Right.
voices and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But in terms of it, if it actually creates more opportunity, that I couldn't say because, every single voice actor came to this industry, came to their roles from very different places and ways, even if we like had similar training or even are both
Yeah.
musical theater people. I always say like I could write down for you step by step exactly how I arrived at my career today and
Right.
tell you do this, and it would not yield the exact same result or even a
Right.
similar result necessarily because the world has changed, we are different people, and there's really no rule book for how to have a career as a voice actor. It is just,
Right.
it's wildly different for every single actor who finds their way into this crazy career.
Right. Well said.
Yeah.
So I got a couple more questions for you, but I
Yeah.
just want to say thank you so much for coming back on this. You're such a delight. When I first met you back then, when you were in Philly, it was just like I just had this warm feeling.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're just super awesome, and I always appreciate your time.
Thank
Absolutely,
you.
and your knowledge and your road, of course. Um, so I'm gonna switch gears with this one because this is on this a little bit. I want to say possibly a little bit emotional, but
Ooh.
in our first interview back then, you mentioned that you all of the recordings from Pokemon resides in New York. Is that still the case?
No, no,
They
they are
they
in
actually moved.
LA. They're now based in LA, but fortunately, like if our characters come back around or if we book a new character, a lot of us are still recording remotely for the show.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So the reason why I asked that because just last month we had the unfortunate passing of OG Pokemon actor Rachel Lillis, who I had the absolute pleasure of moderating a panel with her, and Veronica Taylor and Eric Stewart, in 2021, and I devastating to a lot of people, but
Yeah.
devastated to people, the world of anime, gaming, and the Pokemon world, of course. My question to you is like, have you ever had a chance to meet with her or work with her in any type of way?
So we've definitely been on the same projects, but
Right.
unfortunately, Rachel and I never had the opportunity to meet in person, but
Yeah.
was still absolutely devastated by the news and how it affected the community and affected friends of mine who were really close friends with her.
Yeah.
She was young and vibrant and so flippin' talented, and it's a
Yes.
huge, huge loss. And we've had a few really huge losses in the last few years of young, extremely talented people in our community.
Yeah.
Billy Komet, who was my co-star in Promare, among many other
Yeah.
things, also to cancer, different cancer. It's just heartbreaking, and everybody should stay on top of their health. Make sure you're getting yearly checkups, and anytime something feels weird, go get it checked out because you never know, and you've got to advocate for yourself and for your health because both of these people should still be with us today.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more absolutely with that. Were you surprised at the amount of attention and news coverage that, you know, was had with her passing? Because, honestly, I'm going to be honest, like, I am so grateful that voice actors and people who work in these voice roles get the attention and appreciation from fans. Yeah, because you didn't get that in the '80s, you didn't get that in the '70s when we. It was only years later till we knew who Peter Cullen was and Frank Welker was and Mel Blanc, and stuff
Yeah.
and guys like that. And now
Yeah.
it was only in Japan where like we started realizing like, oh my god, the fans actually appreciate the actors behind it, and then we started jumping on it and started appreciating you guys just as more. But when when the news of her passing came about, it was all over the place.
It was.
Variety,
Yeah.
USA Today.
Yeah.
I was blown away in happiness that it has. Were you surprised about that?
I was and I wasn't. We're at this point now where many of the people who grew up with like the OG cast are
Mhm.
now like real deal adults
Yeah,
and often
yeah,
in positions of power in like news outlets. And so
yes,
when you think of like that entire generation who grew up watching her and also are like, oh my God, I'm still young. I don't, it makes sense that they would have been so affected by it that
yeah,
they, you know, uh, I mean, Pokemon is huge. Pokemon is, one of the largest anime in the world,
yeah,
so the fact that she was one of the original actors of it creating these characters that are now so iconic,
yeah.
it felt like to a lot of people like their friend passed away, in a different way because obviously Robin Williams did a lot more than just voice acting, and not that just voice acting, but he acted in a
Right,
lot of iconic roles outside of voice acting. But I
right.
think a lot of people felt that way with Robin Williams too, where they thought about the movie and they were
Absolutely.
like, oh, he
That
raised
one
me.
hit
He was
so
a
hard.
friend of mine,
Yeah.
literal friend like me, right? And
Mhm.
I think people felt that way with Rachel too, where it was like, oh, she was my friend who I watched every Saturday morning, and now she's gone.
It blew me away because personally I had, like I said, thanks to Repop, gave me the opportunity to, host that panel with them during the pandemic, mind you. It was such a special moment and she was such a sweetheart.
Yeah,
She was so sweet. Like almost like the crazy part about it is that like you if you listen to her and talk to her, it's nowhere near as the charismatic person that you hear on any of the
yeah,
shows that she does.
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
once she gets in that booth, it was just like a total different person with
yeah.
doing multiple different voices. Her artistry was amazing.
Absolutely. And what you just said really hit the nail on the head, where the other side of it, in addition to the fact that she created these iconic characters, was how kind of a person she was. And this is an industry built on relationships, as are
Yes.
many. And you treat people with kindness and respect, and you will get that back in spades. And she's a fantastic example of that.
I couldn't agree more, and which is why I'm so grateful to you and grateful for you just doing what you're doing, grateful for your craft, and grateful for you coming on to the show.
Thank you
Allison,
so
thank you
much.
so much for coming back on. Before I go, and I'll let you plug whatever you need to plug, I know the almighty NDAs always casting shadows over you guys, so I won't go deep or anything, but can you tell us anything that you're working on that you can tell us?
Oh yeah, that NDA life is real. So
I can see it casting right behind you, by the way.
oh my, like, um, so two things that just came out that I can talk about. I'm in two K-dramas that just dropped on Hulu. So if
Okay.
you know, love Squid Game and you are like eager for more of that kind of content, one of them is I'm a bigger role in. I am Daun in Blackout, which is kind of
Ooh.
like a murder mystery,
Yeah.
like noir kind of.
Hmm.
It's really cool. It's on Hulu. You should absolutely watch it.
Okay.
And other things are in the pipeline, but that NDA life, as you said, is real. But I am very
I
active
do
on
not mess with
social
the NDA
media.
life.
Yeah, it's
I want
but
to.
I'm very
I
active.
I want you guys to be on so you can talk about what you're
I
doing. Not,
know it's
not.
really
I'm not.
crazy.
I don't understand why people try to get scoops. It's like you're 15 minutes of scoops versus somebody's career. No,
Yeah,
I'm
for
good. Let's
sure.
be all be surprised and wait for it, and then we'll
Yeah.
approach the situation.
Yeah, but anytime I'm allowed to announce, I always do. I'm very active on social media, especially on
Mhm.
the Instagram and the TikToks. And also my website is updated constantly. So anytime there's new stuff, I'm always putting it out there. So be
Awesome.
sure to follow me.
Well, thank you so much. Allison, you are the best. I really
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
Congratulations again on everything that you're doing. Congratulations of your family. And
Thank
I
you.
also look forward to seeing what you do next.
Yay, me too. Thank you so much for having me back.
Always a pleasure. Folks, I hope you enjoyed this very special and entertaining episode of Talk Time Live exclusive. On behalf of myself and Alyson Leigh Rosenfeld, all I got to say is learn to let go, live life, and love all things anime, comics, movies, and games. This is A.C.M.G presents Talk Time Live. We are out of here.